All right. Hey, everybody. Thank you guys for coming to our meetup, December meetup. Sorry we missed last month. Gene was out of town, Shane got married, and my wife and I had a baby. So it was a busy month. So thanks for coming. Tonight we're going to talk about Gutenberg. If you guys remember, we talked about Gutenberg in July. Back then we didn't have a lot of details, now it's out sooner than we probably expected. So that's what we're going to talk about. How many of you guys are familiar with Gutenberg? Or have heard of it? How many have used it? How many have it on a production site? Okay, great. We'll see if we can increase that number today. All right, so here's our agenda. My computer wants to, there we go. So we'll talk about what is Gutenberg, how to think about it. And that's an important question because some of us are using theme frameworks, page builders. Or do we upgrade? Do we not? When should we upgrade? Things like that. Then Jonathan will do a Gutenberg demo and walkthrough. Then we'll do Q&A and a happiness bar. So if you guys have any questions, we'll take care of that. All right, so what is Gutenberg? Gutenberg is a new editor in WordPress. You can see the classic editor here. It's been around for some 14 years. Gutenberg's over there. They look relatively similar. They're not that similar. Here's kind of an overview of it. Jonathan will go into this in detail, but we have our content area. These are blocks rather than tiny MCE. Undo, redo buttons, publish. We have document settings. Document settings are things like categories, tags, featured image. We have block settings. So if you have a block that's like a drop cap, font sizes, things like that. What else do we have? Document, block settings, publish, and preview. So we'll get into that in detail later, but this is just a quick overview so you can see kind of what we're talking about. So the perks of Gutenberg. One of the big ones is there's no more leakage of bad UX. So if you had a plugin that added shortcodes, you disable that plugin, you see the shortcode in the content. That's not very good. Gutenberg uses HTML, so you don't really get that leakage. You have both static and dynamic blocks. A dynamic block would be like a recent post block. It has a graceful fallback if it breaks or if the server's not responding. We have nested and child blocks, which you may cover later. That's just things like testimonials, product details, templates, and nested blocks. Those will kind of tell blocks kind of where to go, like the layout in your page. Then you have less need for custom post type, which we'll talk more about. So compatibility, Gutenberg, which works with shortcodes. In fact, there's a shortcode block. It works with custom post types. Meta boxes it kind of works with. If they use the DOM in a certain way, they may need to be rebuilt. So you may see some of your meta boxes not working as well. Like Yoast, for example, kind of redid his meta boxes. Any questions so far? Okay, cool. All right, so how are blocks made? When a man and a woman love each other very much. So there's two ways to create blocks. One is the developer way. That's guys like these, that like to write JavaScript. You can also do them actually inside of Gutenberg. It's more limited, but you have two options. Then Advanced Custom Fields is a plugin that helps to create blocks. There's different ways to do it, but these are just kind of the two general ways. All right, so the future of Gutenberg. This is important because a lot of people say, like, what's the big deal about Gutenberg? It's just this little block thing. Where's it going to go? And that's important to think about. So today, we are here. It's replacing kind of the content area. Then in the future, it's going to do the menu, sidebar, company blocks all the way down. So you can picture everything being blocks. And this will probably happen in the back end first, like you see here, then maybe in the customizer, then maybe in the front end, We'll see where it goes. Any questions on kind of where Gutenberg's going? All right. And yeah, this is phase 2, which is happening now. I think Mel's leading it, right? Mel Choice?
I think so.
Okay.
This part of it, yeah.
That part really does look sweet. It's this stuff in the middle getting there that's a little confusing.
Yeah, and so that's kind of the how to think about Gutenberg. And we'll kind of talk through some things just to kind of help frame it. All right, so how to think about Gutenberg. That was a great lead-in. Look at that. He's a plant. All right, so why Gutenberg? Why now? Um, you know, with every new technology, there's kind of a wild west where there's a lot of thrash. We try to figure out how things work. You can probably see that in WordPress. Like, if you want to make a nice looking front page, do you use a page builder? Do you use a theme framework, widgets, shortcodes? Like, you could do any of them. That's not good. You know, it kind of creates a mess. There's a lot of fragmentation. When you change a theme, everything breaks. That's just, you know, it works, and for WordPress professionals, you're probably used to it. And it's, hey, I know how it works, I'm used to it, but it's not great for the next 100 million sites, you know, that are trying to come online and small business, and we need something better for WordPress to grow. So, you know, they've been trying to improve WordPress UX since 2004, before plugins came into core. We've had a lot of great learnings like Beaver Builder, Divi, Elementor, Genesis. These are all great things. We learned a lot from them, but we can do better. So, in terms of how to think about it, there's this spectrum of what people want with their websites. WordPress does this right here. The gap between what people want and what WordPress does, that's what plugins and themes do. So here's kind of this middle section of page builders and shortcodes and theme frameworks and multi-purpose themes, where multi-purpose means bloated. There's all these things here, and it's a really bad experience for users. So Gutenberg is aiming to try to kind of refactor that whole thing and make a better experience overall. Does that kind of make sense?
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate that. 1 out of 20 ain't bad, you know? All right, so we have all these things over here: page builders, shortcodes, TinyMCE, widgets, HTML, and we're trying to simplify all this stuff into a consistent approach. That's Gutenberg. That's kind of what we're trying to do here. So, as an example, we can talk about page builders. So, you know, when you get a page builder, in Beaver Builder they have modules. In Divi, what are they called? Are they called modules also? Anybody use Divi? Modules. Then we have Elementor. They have all these things that help you do something, you know? They don't do that because people want it. People want this advanced customization to make a site look like they want. These page builders, they have to do this just so they can get to that. Like, this enables that. So what we're moving towards is Gutenberg is now this kind of this flexible interface, and will kind of allow this advanced layer of customization. You know, the hard question is, if you've spoken with any of these page builders, what do? They have all this stuff invested in this custom framework that's theirs, you know, and businesses are taught to leverage their advantages, not destroy them, you know. So this is kind of counterintuitive, and we'll see who makes this transition, you know. But this is a hard part that we're all in right now, because, you know, we're told Gutenberg's the future. It's not good enough yet on its own to replace a page builder. So how do you kind of switch over? That's different for everyone, you know, but hopefully kind of thinking about how this stuff is kind of working and seeing some of the compatibility will kind of help you kind of get there. Is this helping? Does this kind of make sense?
Yeah.
So that's, yeah, so we have a demo next. I just want to kind of give an overview, but like, what questions do you guys have now that maybe Jonathan can tackle once we get into the demo? Go for it.
Are you saying that we no longer need widgets and page builders?
So, yeah, because actually part of 2019, all the core widgets they're rebuilding as blocks, right?
Yep.
And it's hard to say you'll never need, like, what are you trying to do? And is Gutenberg ready for it? Because eventually, like Jonathan said, it will be there. It's just, how do you get there? Because if you have this site that you spent 10 grand on, you know, and it does all these, you know, bespoke things, how do you get that to Gutenberg? You know, so it's, there's no easy answer, and kind of the goal here is to help you think about it the right way, so you can make the best decision for your clients, for your business, whatever position you're in. But if I were building a new site today, I would try to do as much as I can in Gutenberg. Like, for me right now, every post I write is in Gutenberg, but the main pages I do with Beaver Builder, just because Gutenberg's not there yet. But once it is, I'll try to switch over to Gutenberg. So, we had another question over here. Yeah.
Well, I was just curious, and it might not be technical, from your visit to WordCamp and other WordCamps around the area, if anybody's ever spoken to any of the Beaver Builder or Elementor
Yeah, so like, I love the Beaver Builder guys. Like, I consider them friends. Talk to them at WordCamp. Like, they're great guys, and they're thinking about this. This is a very hard thing to do because you have this customer base that's generating revenue and needs new features and support. How do you support them and do that while not kind of moving over? And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but you see a lot of page builders adding Gutenberg compatibility, themes and stuff. But you know, if you remember back in 2099, Windows did Windows Mobile, and it sucked, right? Because it was mobile compatible, not mobile native. Like Withal 1 is when you go Gutenberg native, and that's doing things with Gutenberg that weren't possible before. You know, and it's a very hard switch because you can't just do what you did before in the new format. Like, what does Gutenberg uniquely enable you to do? Like, eventually it'll be like offline editing and all these things that you can do. You know, and we don't know what that is yet. Just like we couldn't imagine iOS in 2001. You know, or you know, Candy Crush, right? Like all these things that we love about it. And it's hard to make a case for Gutenberg because it doesn't do a lot right now. But I mean, if we look at the trajectory of technology, we will get there. It's just, I can't tell you when the right time to switch for you is, if that makes sense.
When was it from the Gutenberg process? And I haven't followed it until I had followed it.
Most people didn't, though. That's why.
Is this a direct response to the Wix and Squarespace?
I mean, I wouldn't say it's a direct response. I mean, WordPress UX hasn't changed in over a decade. Like, but these things weren't really needed back then, you know? I think it's a logical step to keep WordPress growing, you know? It probably is from a market sense a response, but I think we can do better. I think the interesting question is if Wix, Squarespace, all these things became popular because they were easier, what happens when WordPress is easy? You know, and that's good for all of us, right? Any other questions? Yeah.
I don't want to jump ahead before the presentation, so I can wait, but when did you guys talk about dynamic blocks?
Are you able to cover that?
Yeah, we can cover that.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was a presentation coming up, so this would be more a general thing, and not that it's probably hit too many people yet. But how have people presented to a client that, hey, well, we're at 5 now, 5.1, and we're going to need some changes, and there's going to be a cost associated with it. Just got done paying, so to speak. And that the whole salesy, well, this is technology. Do you just take it, deal with it, and move on, or do you have any tips on how to deliver that?
I do have some tips, and I think we could go over that probably in the happiness part of it.
Yeah, I'll cover that a little bit too.
Cool. Any other kind of questions about how to think about it, where it's going, things like that? All right. All right, so Jonathan's going to come over into the demo right now. You have a
USB-C.
all right, cool. So you can just use this.
Thank you.
Yep. Oh, let me give you this too. You guys had to pay extra to see me put it on them.
Did you shut it off or leave it on? Did you leave it on? Yeah. Okay. All right. Hello. Lots of new faces this month. That's very good because I spoke in a couple months ago, so it's good to see new faces. I'm not talking to the same people. So one more time, who's used it so far? Who's used Gutenberg? Okay, cool. So this is pretty informal. I'm going to walk through the new editor. I'm going to show you some things. I'm going to talk about how it works. But mainly I'm just here to get a pulse on what the questions are, what people are curious about, what people need help with. And like the questions, like you have an older site and you don't have the budget to upgrade it, like what's the best way to handle those situations? So that's kind of my goal tonight, is to help you with your real world questions that you have that come up as we walk through it. So don't give any spoilers if you've used it so far, but for everybody else, let's go into the new editor and let's make a post. I'm just kidding. This is the old editor. But I thought this was a good way to go about it because, for example, let's do some things here. Let's say my new post. And let's add some images. Lots of nice images. And let's say I want to make it a gallery. All right, so we'll make a gallery. We'll put this into our post. All right, this was my amazing trip. And let's say we wanted to do some headings here. Hello there. All right, so let's publish this. Now, when we look at this, it generally looks how it looked in our editor. But as I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, it doesn't always look that way. It's often very hard to get the editor to look how it looks in the front end. So that's one of the things with the new editor that's great is pretty much it's truly a what you see is what you get editor. So as long as the blocks are coded right and the styles are included correctly by the developers, you're going to really see what your users are going to see. So there'll be a lot less going back and forth between, usually some people have the edit screen open and then say they wanted to make a change, and let's make our gallery a two wide gallery, and I preview it. Now I got a third window open and I can see, okay, and the gallery doesn't change to fit the window. So that's one of the things I'm most excited about is that the person using it can truly understand what's going to be presented to the users of the site. A lot of this is accomplished with meta boxes, and the meta box will have a lot of options, and left or right and what image, and but the user has to understand that, oh well, this will go above all the content, or this will go right in the middle, or the ads that you select in the meta box will go in the middle. So that's something that's kind of going away, and that's being solved by Gutenberg. So let's talk about that example here. So the reason why I'm going this way, I'm showing you kind of backwards, is because I have something called the Classic Editor plugin active. So the Classic Editor plugin is something that will be supported through 2021. So until January 1st, well, not directly on that date. It's not official yet, but basically this is a plugin you can put on your site now and then upgrade to the latest version of WordPress, and you're gonna keep that old experience, that legacy experience. So this is great for those customers who they just paid you for this expensive brand new site. It's perfect. It works great for them in every way. They don't have the budget to go through the process of either recoding with CSS or coding blocks. This is a perfect example. You can say, hey, I've done this with a few of my freelance clients as well. It's like, hey, this is what's coming. Take a look at it. I want you to try it out. Tell me what you think. We have to think about this eventually in the next year or two. But with our new projects, we're going to use it. And this is the future. And we have to figure out when we're going to be able to adapt and get ready for that. Another cool feature about the Classic Editor, which is right now it's a separate plugin, but they might actually pull it into the same plugin. It's called the Gutenberg ramp, and so the ramp plugin lets you. Where is it here? I think it's in writing. It will let you select specific post types to enable Gutenberg on. So you can have the Classic Editor active. But say only for posts, I want the new editor to be available. You can come here, and then if I were to refresh this, it's new posts only. It's not working. Did I save it? Let's see. Save it. Default editor for all. Enable Gutenberg on. It's a live demo. It didn't work. But it will. It will. You can also allow users to switch editors. So, for example, if somebody really likes the new editor, they'll be able to come in. There'll be a drop down here, And right here. So we have block editor and classic editor. So now I can actually, I see what happens. So by default, it uses the default one that you selected, but you have that option to click into it in line there. So now we have an old post. We haven't opened it in the classic editor before, in the new editor before. So this is what you'll be presented with. Everything in your post will just be dumped into a classic block, a classic content block. So everything that you were able to do previously in there, you'll still be able to do. So say I wanted to remove that. You know, I can continue to use this block. But then I also have the option to start adding content below that using new blocks in the new editor. I also have the ability to convert this. So I can come in, I can click convert, and it's going to do its best to parse it into the new blocks. So those are some options. You might have some sites that this works great on, and it does it. It works well. You might have some more complicated sites, like maybe with meta boxes, like I mentioned. You might have to give a more one-by-one test it and make sure you do it in staging, so you can go back if you need to. And then once they're converted, you can actually use all the features that are available to you in the new editor. So let's preview this and let's see what we get. So you can see now we have a more representative, let's close that. We have a more, in the editor, we have a better representation of what we're going to see on the front. So let's start new. We'll start with a new post. And I'm going to disable the classic editor. We're going in. We're going all the way in. No more classic editor. I'm ready. YOLO. Let's do it. I'll disable the ramp too. All right. Awesome. Okay, so new post. So, you know, my awesome new post. One thing I really like in the new editor is you can just type / and you'll see your most used blocks, different types. But you can also type something. So you could say, it's going to autocomplete basically. So say I wanted to do a YouTube video, I could do that. And who used to use Embed? Does anybody know what that was? Yeah, so Embed is a protocol where you can take a URL, you can call out to an external service, and you can get a bunch of data back, and you can do something with that data. So YouTube, you know, Twitch, all the video providers have it. And in the old editor, it worked, but it was kind of buggy. It had to be on its own line. You had to enter after you put the URL in the editor. But with this, it's much easier for the user to actually find a video. So let's see here. Let's go to YouTube, cute cats. I'm going to make a nice little cat video here. There we go. Perfect. I'm going to put my cute cat video in. I can watch my cute cats while I edit my post there. Another block that I really like is the cover block. So you can take an image and it will take up the entire width. So who does this a lot with their clients, right? They have the big graphic and they have maybe some text on top, or so my awesome trip. I didn't take this photo, but I did go to France. Paris. So again, if we preview. So again, we're seeing exactly what we're building in the editor. And to me, this was one of the biggest barriers for people learning how to just build pages on WordPress, in WordPress. It was, I don't know how to edit this. Like, where does this go? I don't understand that. And there were these really complex and not really good from a UI standpoint, user experience standpoint, to accomplish them. But again, it was kind of leaving the user behind, the more novice users. Let's see what else we have here. Let's do some files. I don't have, let's see. Let's find some files I got here. This is, it's an image. We don't want an image. Let's say I want to put the release candidate for WordPress 5.0.2. So I link to that. Again, we'll preview. And all of these have default styling. So again, they're all going to show up the same way in the front as in the back end. Let's see. What's something that you commonly do that you think would make a good block? Does anybody have any? They're curious. What's that?
3 columns.
3 columns? Sure. So there's a column block. My first column. My second column. I can stretch that out to fill. I can get my settings here, and I can make as many columns as I want. So maybe with this you have, you know, like your staff members is a common thing to do, or your services that you offer. It's a great thing as well. Yeah.
What happens to the columns on a phone or a tablet view?
Yeah. So that's going to depend on your theme, but I'm pretty sure they're just going to stack. My Firefox wants to crash, but so yeah. So in 2019, this is the new default theme for WordPress that I'm using. They're just going to stack. But again, it would kind of depend on your theme and the styles you have. Yeah.
So the styling is just generally driven by the theme. How much styling does Gutenberg add?
Yeah. So it doesn't really add much. So, and when I say that, I mean inline. So there's no like, only your colors and stuff like that will be inline, or if you change font sizes, they might be inline. But you can see that it's mostly just classes right here. And it's kind of done like that on purpose to be a little bit flexible. You can switch out themes, and the editor's not dictating what's going on. It's your theme can handle that. At WordCamp US, I talked to a lot of people, and the common feeling was that themes are gonna kind of go away eventually. Themes, yeah. So themes are probably just going to be a set of global styles and some page templates that you define for that type. So maybe it's a photography site. You have some templates, and then you're controlling your overall fonts and your font sizes, and your heading sizes, and your color, your base colors. Another cool thing here about Guttenberg is you can register colors for your overlay of the image. So in this one, let's say I want this to be blue. You can see that it's changing that overlay. But you can also define, let's see, can we do it on headings? I've never done it on headings. You can definitely do it on your columns. So say I want to be like that, and I want gray. But it's also going to warn you if your color combinations are not accessible. So this is actually really hard for certain people to read with certain vision deficiencies. So that will warn you, especially the people that don't understand that. They say, hey, this might be hard to read. Try choosing a different color. Okay, this is still a little bit hard. And then, okay, so now it's much better. So, so where I was going with that is that themes can register these and can control these colors. So this would be a good example of something that might be theme-based in the future, where the theme, you don't want your client to pick just any color, because they'll be having yellow background and they'll have animated cats and all these things. But you can kind of control what's going on there.
That makes sense. So it's more like a design than like a preconceived
Yeah.
down to every little piece.
Exactly. The other great thing about this is you can have templates. So I didn't have this. Let me see if I can find an easy example here. So this is, for example, a template. So this basically, if you can set it so that a certain post type, when you click Add New, it will come up with this structure already defined. So in this example, this is the page title, and it's set up to have a paragraph, an advertisement, a paragraph, an advertisement, a paragraph. So when the person comes in here, they already see that rough structure of the site that they're supposed to follow. And so it's actually pretty easy to do. This is an example of a quote. So this is a testimonial post type, and when they click Add New, they're presented with this. There's no title. There's no. It's just a quote with an attribution to the person that said it. Let's see if we have any more examples here.
Where did you go to start to create a template?
So to create the templates, you actually just have to do it in where you register the post type. So in the template here, I don't know if you can read that. So when you create a new post type, you give all these arguments and tell it what to look like and how to behave. This is just another property you can define on that. So in the template, you have an array of types. Do you want to try it? You want me to show you? We can see it happen? Yeah, let's see it. Let's do it. Do it live.
Because it always works when you do it.
I'm going to need to plug in, though, if we do this. Let's do it. All right, there we go. So let's see. It's not going to do what I want. The mood lighting. All right, so let's do, I'm going to just make a plugin file. So MU plugins is a folder you can have in your content directory, and anything that's in it will get loaded automatically, and it doesn't show up in your plugins, active plugins section. So it's a great way to put things that you need to be active that you might not need your clients to be aware of or be able to turn on and off. So let's say custom types, Cape Cod. All right, so let's register. We'll call it Cape Cod Meetups. And I'm going to, use what they use in the example here. Okay. Okay. You don't have to understand everything that's going on here, but basically what I'm doing is I'm saying when WordPress initializes, we want to run this function here, and it's going to create our post type. So we're going to create a post type that's called Cape Cod Meetups, and we have we're saying, hey, give me a template with an image block that's aligned to the left, a heading where the placeholder text is add author, and a paragraph which says add description. So let's see if I did it right. Live demo, here we go. Okay, so we have, all right, let's see, meetings. There we go. So I'm going to come to my meeting post type. And there we go. So now I have my title. I have a place to put an image. I have, it's a little funky. I think I missed something, but you can get the idea of you have a service template where you can put in. You have a team member template. You have a book template, and you can add these parts that your clients frequently forget to add to the page by just kind of giving them a little pointer of, hey, don't forget to put all this in. It makes it easier for them. They just got to plug it in, and they can go from there. So that's a really awesome feature. But that's somewhere I see themes going towards, is that these templates that you are curated, sort of the type of business you are or the type of site that you have. Maybe it's a gallery. So I think we could do. Let's try that there. So this one I have a gallery. So, I can add my images here, and basically it's just as there, and all I need to know how to do is use the blocks. Yeah.
Where would you recommend people using something like this versus like a reusable block?
Yeah. So reusable blocks. Those are fun. So let's go in here. So say I have a blog, and I tell my employees, you all have to write one blog post a week. I don't care what you write about, but you have to write a blog post. We need to get out there. We have to have some content. So let's say blog post from John. Okay, cool. So now I am going to, at the bottom of that, I'm going to put, say I'm going to put contact info. So let's just we'll just do a paragraph there. You can just type, I forget what they call the paragraph tag now, but let's say, for more, please get in touch with us at blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I have like my article here. Oops. Okay. Another cool thing is you can select multiple blocks and you can move them. So if I wanted to switch that, you can duplicate them. So I hope that my employees are not writing their blocks like this, their articles like this, but they can do it like that. So now say this is the first one I've done, and now I want this to be something that's used on the entire site. I can come here and I can say add this to reusable block, and I could say blog post contact info, and I can save it. And then the next post, so now say Gabe is in, he's I got to publish first, don't forget that. So now Gabe comes in, it's his turn, he's got to write his article. It might not be as good as mine, but we'll let him, he's working on it, he's writing his blog, so. Okay, so we got Gabe's post. Okay, so he didn't write as much as me. But now he gets to the end, and he wants to have that contact info. But we want it to be the same on all the blog posts. We want it to be up to date. So what you can do is you can type in the name that you gave the block, and you can insert that same block here. And so now anywhere that this block gets edited, it's going to change on every page that uses that block. So say our phone number changes. I can save that. And then when I come, I got to publish or save. So now if I go back to my blog post, it updates everywhere. So this is a great block that you can a great thing you can use in your reusable blocks. So again, kind of going back to the theme, what themes might be in the future, you could have the theme, you install the theme, it could create contact info, like all these default reusable blocks that are common, contact form, whatever, and then those could be used in your block templates. You can specify in your template, I believe it's done by the ID. So each of those reusable blocks is actually just a post behind the scenes. So I think you can just specify either the name or the ID of the block in the templates. And so those templates would get included automatically on new posts. So we would have a new blog post template that Gabe could use the next time, and he wouldn't have to worry about that going forward. Yeah.
Is there a way to lock reusable blocks down by user role?
There is. I don't remember how. That is possible. I believe you have to have the ability to write and publish posts in order to use reusable blocks, because really what you're doing behind the scenes is you're publishing a post. So right now I believe that's the requirement, is you have to, I believe it's author or above is the user role that you'll need. You can. Actually, I think it might, I'm not sure. It's either contributor or author, the level that you have to have. So I'm sorry?
Isn't there a capability or something?
Yes. Yep. Well, not specifically for blocks. I think that it just uses the posts, edit posts. But yeah, you can edit that, and I believe it's only to edit them. So if they're in a template and you create a new post, I'm pretty sure that it would just show up and you'd be able to use it in your post. So great example of, you have someone that just writes blog posts. You don't want them to change your contact information on every page by editing the reusable block. You can lock that down a little bit in that sense. Let's see. So there's also things called nested blocks. Yeah, sorry.
Do you know if it's possible to save a reusable block to use on multiple sites? Would you just do a template like you did for the block template?
You could. Let's see. So let's see. There is. I'll show you a trick here. So there's actually a page, because it's a post. You can actually come. It's not linked to anywhere. There's probably a plugin that adds that link, and if not, then that's a good idea for a plugin if you want to do that. But you can come here, and any of these you can actually export as JSON. So if I want to, I gotta choose an application here. But if I actually wanted to take this blog and put it onto my other site, I can import this with as JSON into my other site. And likewise, and like I said, import here. And I'm pretty sure you can bulk edit. I think that if you use the export tool, it will also include those. Does not. Probably because it's hidden. It's not like visible. Like show UI is false. But that's probably not difficult to enable, where you can export those. So yeah, any other questions so far? Anyone have any use cases where they think it would be really cool as a block and they're not really sure, or?
I've got a question. So you just exported that block type as a JSON.
Yep.
Does that mean that all blocks are essentially just, they're being stored as chunks of JSON somewhere, and is there some sort of universal engine?
Yeah, good question. So essentially what all blocks are just HTML comments. So let's see here. So like this one here, let's switch to edit as HTML. So basically what it will do, actually the better way to do this would be to just view source here. It's not showing it there. Okay, so basically what's happening is this is the markup that's generated by the block. So like I said, there's a couple of styles, like a background color, and this one uses the image URL to have the background image on this block. There's some classes to designate what it is, but there's a parser that will know how to parse this into like React, and React will know how to digest that into settings and vice versa. But really, all these are comments.
Oh, so it's using React.
Yes, this is built using React. This is a React application. Yep. But the way that it works is, so say you were to go back to the classic editor, all of these are just surrounded by HTML comments, and in the HTML comments is the data attributes that it needs to know to render the information. So if you were to deactivate this and go to the old editor, or load your own editor for whatever reason, it would still, the information would still be there, and the markup would still be there, but it's just like it's surrounded by comment tags. Actually, I think the way that we could see that is, yeah, here we are. So you can see this is a WP Core embed block. That's a YouTube block. The URL is this, and the type is video. The provider name is, so this is just things that get generated. So this is what actually gets parsed into React, and it knows what the different properties are. But it also renders the HTML, and it saves that in your post content. So if these were to, for example, these were to go away, so it would still be there, but it's just not going to know how to digest it into React. So as you can see, it turned it into a classic block.
So I got one follow-up question. So I'm trying to get my head around how the upgrade process works. So you've got a 4x, or I guess probably has to be 4x, not a 3 or whatever. When you do upgrade to 5, you were saying something about it's going to go over and try to regenerate each.
Nope. So it would be. It would just give you, every page would look like this. It would just be a classic block. So this classic block is just the old tiny MCE editor in a block. So all your posts would just look like this, one really big classic block, and they would stay that way indefinitely unless you went in and edited them. Yep. And even if you edit them, you can add below it, and they would remain, that content would remain in the classic block until you you can convert it. So we could say convert. And it's embeds. It might be a little tricky, but we did that gallery. There was a gallery and a heading, and it actually converted it right into blocks.
So maybe a business opportunity would be for someone to go and create a crawler that goes through all the content of an older site. And
yep, it could be, or you could
kind of regurgitates the right JSON and everything.
Yep. Yep, or you could go in, and it could be a manual process. Like they might have a highly custom site. They might use Beaver Builder or something else, and they want to convert to just Gutenberg. And I say Gutenberg, but Gutenberg was the code name for this project. But now it's just WordPress. So I'm still trying to get out of that habit. So now it's the block editor. So, but yeah, they could want to do that, and that could be your thing, is helping people upgrade and get their site to be block editor compliant or block editor ready.
Here's a question.
Yep.
I try to hate it and I don't. I kind of like it. I think it's kind of slick. I'll never be a React programmer or anything like that, but I could see what you were. It's very slick. What they were doing. But so I can't wait for it. As much as I love widgets, they have solved a lot of problems for me, but not really an elegant solution, because you have to go to a completely different interface and deal with completely different restrictions, and in order to get the job done. So I think you're saying that eventually, hopefully, like next week, it will replace widgets and make widgets elegantly simple.
Don't get your hopes up on next week. But yes, so the sidebar area is not very. It's even worse than the old editor is.
Yeah.
Its terms in menus as well. Like, what does this mean? Where does it go? Like, I don't understand. Widgets. You have, okay, what is the footer? What is what are these?
Totally out of context. It's not visual or anything. So I'm okay with that. I'm going to try to wrap my mind around the widgets are going to go away, and I've learned how to work them. Oh well, life goes on. Is it going to be the same with plugins, or will plugins still remain?
I think plugins will stay like this because it's kind of a little bit different.
It's more functionality than design.
Yeah, these are these are defined tools that you kind of tack onto your site to do different things. They inject themselves into WordPress, and and do different things like spam prevention, and I have a bunch of different blocks here. But yeah, I don't see plugins changing.
A plugin, say WP Forms,
Mhm.
does forms. It's going to have to interact somehow with
Right.
The new editor, by making its own block or something like that. So there's going to be some sort of an overlap there, at least for certain.
Yeah.
plugins, right?
So a good example of that is Elementor.
Number one
Haha.
in the world.
So Elementor has actually been really they've spent a lot of time getting ready for Gutenberg. So the approach that they've taken is everything for Elementor is still in Elementor. You still add things the same way you would. So let's say, and I'm not. I don't usually use Elementor, so this is all new to me as well. So I'm learning as I go here. But basically, you get this section, and you can drag all the things here, and let's put a heading in here. So you can see there's a lot of similarities. And then say I want to do a column 2 here. Okay, so is it save or do I have to? Oh, right here, publish. Okay.
Yeah, so you go there, and then to get back out to the dashboard, it's insane. You have to go up to the hamburger menu and then down to
Gotcha. I'm glad I have you here.
Yeah, they broke that. They had it right, but then they broke it and they didn't fix it yet.
So say I wanted to add a new post. What they've done is they're not trying to battle with Gutenberg. They basically have their own block. But their block is you select the template that you want to insert into the page. And you can see it loads it right there. So this is a dynamic block. So there's 2 types of block. There's a more static one and there's a dynamic one. I don't know if we have a name for the static ones, but a dynamic one would be something like latest posts. It's going to update every time the person loads the page or edits the post. It's going to have new posts there. So this is always dynamic here. The Elementor one is similar, where it references that section that we created, and if it gets updated, it's kind of like a reusable block in a sense. But that's the route that they've chosen to go with their plugin, in that their block, instead of putting all their stuff into Gutenberg, they're keeping their interface that everyone's familiar with. So you can have like nothing in your page except for your Elementor templates, and that would work for you. So if you're an Elementor shop and you do everything with Elementor, your path forward is pretty easy. You just have Elementor blocks and everything else stays the same. Some others have hung back a little bit, and they were waiting because you might have heard or you might have been familiar with things were changing really quickly. So it wasn't uncommon for APIs to get pulled out or new APIs to get added to replace others. But now that it's in WordPress, it's released, there's a much bigger responsibility to have backwards compatibility and have things continue working in a certain way. So now it's a little more solid, a little more cemented. A lot of the people are starting to catch up now, and they're finally putting out the code that will kind of adapt to Gutenberg, to the new editor.
Do you think Beaver Builder will be similar to this methodology?
It could be. I can't really speak for them. And again, I'm not a big I'm not really a big Beaver Builder user, so I can't really say. But I think that everybody's going to have to just adapt a little bit, and page builders aren't necessarily going away. As you see here, like there's ways to build page builders. So maybe they have like a dynamic thing where they can. Don't show them this video, but I'm giving everybody all the business ideas. But you could have something that where you build. Has anyone ever used a plugin that you can create custom post types in the admin? So you could do something like that, but where you can specify the templates. You could create the templates for certain post types or something like that. There could be a way where when you click Add New Post, it says, what template do you want? And you could choose multiple templates per post type, things like that. Another example of a plugin that's been doing a really good job is Yoast. They've done a lot of work into integrating into the new editor. So let's see here. So let's say I wanna focus on cats. So I'm not doing a really good job focusing on cats right now. So it gives me all these suggestions. It says that is true. So let's see. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, so they have it where contextually it will highlight and give you suggestions based on your actual content. So I went in here and I have 8 consecutive sentences with the same word. So it's able to actually go in and highlight those and show me where my issues are. And so these I think this is called the Annotations Api. And so this is a new, they've brought this forward into the block editor, and it's really powerful to do all kinds of cool things.
It's like watching, a baby being born.
It is. Gabe knows all about that now.
Just click a couple things, you're all set.
Yeah, let me see.
The dynamic blocks.
Yep.
Is that where you would use for like a weather feed or a social feed or something like that?
Sure.
Dynamic block or
Yep, exactly. The dynamic, yeah, so the dynamic blocks actually call out and they'll render them on the server side. But that's kind of how they remain dynamic, is that when you load, it's going to say, oh, this is dynamic one, let's refresh, let's come out and load it, and then put it into the content. Whereas the other ones are more, as we saw, they have the comments with the data attributes and the JSON where it knows how to process it, and then that's what it puts into the content, and it saves it that way. So that's not going to get refreshed. But yeah, things like that, like today's weather, unless you wanted it to be always show that day's weather, historically, you would want that to be a dynamic block.
you said unless you would so we'll use weather as an example, so that why not use a regular block with just the using HTML and JavaScript pulls in weather?
Yep, yeah, you could do that as well. You can have a code block. So for some situations that would work better. And it's going to take a little, you're going to have to weigh the pros and cons and see which one you think works best for you. But yes, say your business has, like this API they always use. You can just have a code block, and you can write whatever code you want into that block. But yeah, that would be refreshing on the client side, not so much on the server side. And so you could do things like caching. You could cache the HTML that goes out and hit the weather server every 5 minutes, so you're not hitting them if you get a spike of traffic. If they're not caching on their end, type of thing. One other thing I talked about was nested blocks. So Jetpack has a really cool nested block. Let's see here. So who's used Jetpack before? Okay, who knows what Jetpack is? Okay, much more people. So Jetpack is basically this, it's like a tool chest of all these different common things that people will use. For example, they have forms, they have markdown support, they have spell check, extra spell check built in. They monitor your site for it going down. They can auto update your plugins, and they have all these different features that they have. One of the ones that they have is a form. They have feedback forms. So the way that their form works is that you create the form, but they have a form block, and their form block is full of field blocks. So the field blocks can only exist within a form block, but you can put them in there in any combination that you would like. So that's an example of something you could do with a nested block. So maybe to use the weather example, maybe you have a weather block, and within that you could put the 3-day forecast, the radar, and maybe on one post you wouldn't want the radar, you would want. So that's another example you could have with some nested blocks, but it would keep it contained in that shell, that outer block that you have, and it keeps them from adding keeps them from adding the big map that takes up the whole screen. And, you want to keep it within that weather block. But again, themes, that might be something that themes change into, is controlling what blocks can get used where and how. You can't put a map in the widget, but you could put in your sidebar, but you could put it in any post content or no pages, only posts type of thing. Yeah.
So within that form block you were saying, is there a way, or is it somewhere else on here, to add the WooCommerce piece, or to add payment, or of that kind? I need a form and then I need payment. How would that
Yeah, good question. So they also have done a lot of work with the new editor. I'm trying to find, they have a nice video demo somewhere. So this is just a GIF demo. So basically what this is a dynamic block, and they're coming in and they're selecting the categories of products that they want to display on this page in the block. So then they click done, and it's going to call up to the server and get the rendered version of it. And it's just going to loop again. But they have blocks. They have all those things. The page, I think what they have is, I think the page for checkout is just a block. It's like the checkout block. I'm not 100% sure on that. But that would make sense where you say, oh, this is my checkout page. Select that on this thing, and then it would load everything it needs. And then that would handle all those aspects there. Yeah, check it out. They've done a lot of good stuff with the new editor. And just one more thing. So another cool idea would be to have on the checkout, you could have a dynamic block for suggestions on the checkout page. So you'd have your checkout form, and then at the bottom be like, oh, did you forget this? Or maybe you would like this. You could have a related products or a suggestion dynamic block type thing. Okay, yeah.
So kind of for like agencies, freelancers, more advanced users that would be doing this a lot. First, how would you recommend they build blocks? Whether they just start using React or use something like advanced custom fields, and then how would you recommend they include blocks? Maybe that's related. Should they just have a functionality plugin they put on every client site so it's easier to use? Should they export a JSON? What's kind of the best workflow for them?
Yeah, so it all depends on your skill set. If you know a lot of JavaScript, you should definitely look at trying to do the React way. Advanced custom fields is great because you can actually register blocks server side like you would a post type. You could say register block. I don't know how they do it, and you specify what fields are in it, how it works, and then it would actually handle most of the JavaScript side for you. So if you're a more traditional PHP WordPress developer, you could do that route. And then the other aspect is it's actually really easy to create a block. It's not hard. The intricacies come in what settings you have and how making sure it adapts and it's styled correctly. So you could just have a block where they put one value in and it calls out to the server, and you handle everything on the server. So that's a simple way to do it, but it's not as flexible. It's not as responsive in the editor itself, where they would see things right. There's a bunch of. I recommend Zach Gordon. He's got a lot of great courses on building blocks and getting started. There's a lot of great. There's a lot of great course material out there for making Gutenberg blocks. So if you want to learn one way, and then I'm not as experienced in React I would like to be, so I'm trying to ramp up and learn JavaScript deeply. I'm trying to learn that a little bit better, have a better foundation before I really dive in full force on that. So I'm mainly experimenting with, using the editor and getting it into core and helping with those aspects of it. But definitely in 2019, I'm going to be diving into React and I might be able to give you better answers then.
Just something to add.
Yes, go ahead.
If you are going to try and create a block in React, there's an NPM package called Create Gutenberg.
Yes.
That was developed by Ahmad Awais, and it basically, you do npm install create Gutenberg, and it configures Webpack for you. It does all the boilerplate you need to just actually start doing the React templating portion in the logic of the block. You don't have to go through all the config, which can take hours.
So like similar to create React app before.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, I forgot about that. Thank you. That is a great one, a great resource. But yeah, that allows you to dive in and not fully know how to configure everything and all that, but you'll be able to get your feet wet and start to play around with it and see, how the changes work. And
Yeah, just going straight to like Webpack is like, that's a whole other like beast. What? It's fine. You just set up the dynamic loading and importing and everything, and it gets out of control real quick.
yeah, and
Throw in what, like 20 lines.
a lot of the templates are just, they look like HTML. They just have placeholders in it with like the handlebar brackets, the handle mustache brackets. And they just replace data attributes with properties in there, So some of it might look a little familiar, but you gotta really get up to speed with the MVC frameworks and how JavaScript handles all those things. And
Are there any plugins you recommend checking out that have like extra blocks beyond the core block?
yeah, so I installed a bunch of.
Frontier, I guess.
Yeah, it is. Let's see. So this one is called Atomic Blocks. So they have a call to action block, a container block, inline notice, all these different ones. So for example, let's go and check them out. Let's see what we got. So like they have click me, you know you want to. Looks like it's actually validating as I go. It's actually searching for content on my site. Then you click off and you can see that the field goes away, but you're left with the presentation element of it. And same with this, it supports the wide. And so say I wanted to, oops. Yeah, can I do a background image? Let's see, that'd be cool. Nope, I can't. Okay. So let's publish.
I had tried a block that did one of those icon blocks. You put an icon, you can choose the color and set the hover color. I couldn't get the hover color to work.
Okay.
Get which one it was, and I doubt it was Guttenberg's fault or the new editor's fault, but that's the only bug I found.
Yeah, definitely report these things that you find because, like I said, it's everything's been moving very quickly, and a lot of people are still catching up, and they're still trying to find where they fit best in this new world. So I'm sure all your feedback or anything you notice would be appreciated if you pass it up to them and they can fix it. And they might be like, oh, we know about this. It's coming out next release. Or they might say, I had no idea. Thank you, and we'll get it out there for you. And
Yeah, I'm going to try it again tonight, see if it's fixed. Probably is.
yeah.
Seems to me, that there's going to be the blocks that come with it,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's going to be an untold number of companies or individuals that have another set of blocks.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I get confused. I go, which block should I use for this? Each one has a container block or an image block. Personally, that's just a thing with me. I get a little overloaded when there's
Yeah, I don't recommend going out and installing all the like I have all these here. I have one, so like let's do it. Why not? Wild West live demo here. Let's do it. All right. So we get you're gonna get overwhelmed, like you were saying. Yeah, I don't want updates. Oh, we got another one. Okay, cool. Yeah. So now let's make a new post here. Let's see. If you come up on this section, you actually have everything is kind of sorted here. So this is a little less overwhelming. But yeah, I have I have a card, I have a call to action, I have headers. There's a header here, but then there's also a header in that. So there's an image. And then this one has a tweet, I'll click the tweet and then a plugin advertise. So there's all those. So yeah, so you're gonna have to find, you're gonna have to find the plugins are kind of going towards bundling a handful of blocks together that makes sense for them. So if you say you use Gravity Forms, and they're going to make blocks that are going to be critical for you when you're using Gravity Forms. But plugins like these, they're going to be more, hey, let's give you a bunch of different blocks you can use to build different things. So you might find that the Advanced Blocks one works really well, the Atomic Blocks works really well, but Advanced doesn't work for you, or maybe you like the Stackable plugin instead. So it's going to take a little trial and error. It's going to take a little bit of trying to find what works best for you. Eventually, what would be cool is that while you're typing here, my thing disappeared. So maybe you typed here and you said, I need sheet music, and you don't have a sheet music block. What if there was a way for it to be checking some directory, and then right here you could say add a sheet music block, and it would just get that one block. Maybe they could be separate enough where that could happen. I think that's a great vision. I think that is a vision that many have. It's just a matter of how we get there, and we're in the foundation phase right now. And are you familiar with the Shiny updates in the plugins and themes? Yeah, so that is basically when you have an update, we can force it to happen here. Let's do that. Oops. You can see all the styles for 2019. But yeah, that's where we're going. We talked about that. So you can see here now I have an update. So I just click update, and it just updates my theme. So it was termed Shiny Updates was the project name when it went into core. And same thing with plugins. But what if there was something similar for blocks, where like I said, while you're typing, if you need to find a block, you had a way to search for blocks to add from the marketplace, or wherever it was. Maybe there's like a block directory, like the plugin directory, and then it's updated right there. So if you could kind of picture that, and yeah. Yeah, there's discussion around it. It's not really clear like how it would work. Like, would it be its own repository? Would it be, how do you police all the blocks? It's adding another type of review, another organization almost. There's a lot to figure out. I think it would work really great. I think what it could happen is it could just be from NPM. So NPM is a Node package manager. So if you run Node, which is basically a JavaScript engine on the server, you could, that's basically how Gutenberg works, how the new block editor works, is there's probably about 20 different packages that are published to NPM's registry. And when WordPress gets built, it pulls them all in, it builds them, it compiles them, and then it puts it into a usable source. So maybe it's just we piggyback off of that, and there's a specific tag that someone has to use on the NPM registry, and then all those get pulled in, and then that way you just kind of, we're using their infrastructure and we're putting the blocks up there, and then people could, theme developers could use those in their theme, in their package file, and you could pull them in when they build and release their theme. So that's an option as well. There's a lot of different ideas floating out there, but yeah, I think that's where I see it going, especially when it takes over a lot of the other aspects. One other thing too to think about is, I don't know who's familiar with the customize feature, but the customizer is kind of an earlier iteration of what you might see. So it's a live preview of your site. So let's see here, I'm going to find what I can change. So you can actually come in and have a custom color for your links, I think. Where are they? I don't have many links. There we go. So you can see, you can change how your site looks for you. There's content options where you could say only show an excerpt. You could not display the date. You could display the categories. So it's going to be interesting to see how the customizer adapts. This is in WordPress core, and this is something that's starting to look like, oh, maybe does Gutenberg fit in here, or is it its own thing? Do only higher level things remain here, like your site logo and your site title? Does this go away entirely? Is it going to get, because a lot of this is just JavaScript and jQuery, and so it might not really interact well with React. We might need to kind of replace it with a more holistic approach.
Yeah, that would be nice, because that's a pretty big hanging chad. You got half of the stuff over here, and half in the new editor.
Yep.
And to my mind, it does get a little confusing sometimes.
Yeah, and this is one thing they added that's really cool is you can actually change like your site name or your slogan, and you can actually schedule when it goes live. So say you have Christmas Eve, you want to have a sale and you want to turn your site red and green and all that stuff. You can actually schedule that when you want it to go live, and then when that date hits, the next person that goes is going to see that updated change set. So this is a great way to do that. You can also get a link to send to someone. So say you're working for a client and you want to schedule, let's say 24th. I schedule it. I get a link, and it's got a change set ID. You can send that to someone, and they can preview it, and then they could publish it themselves, or they could just say, yep, looks good, and you could say, all right, it's all set. It's going to go up on the 24th. So it's a great way for you to actually stage your changes for customers.
How did you access that again?
This is the customizer. So, yep.
Okay.
And then basically right here, up on top. Yep. Another cool thing which I just thought of walking through that is I'm pretty sure you can schedule blocks. So if you have a block with a shared block, no, maybe not. Oh, that's a plugin. That's what it is. Somebody built a plugin to do that. So you can have a block in your post, and you can schedule it when it goes live. So you could have a block that's a sale block or a code, and the code's not good until a certain date in your e-commerce software, but you don't want to display that to them, and then they try it and it doesn't work, and like, what the heck? You could just say, hey, check back here on Wednesday, and there'll be a code for you. Or you know, a new news post that you know is going to get published on a certain date and time. You can put that there, and it would pop up and link to related content or something like that. Yeah, there's a lot of exciting things that people are thinking about, and like you say, it's the Wild West. It's kind of you know, everybody's trying to try it out and see what they can do. There's another cool example. There was a shape block. Oh yeah, there's one that you draw. There's one where so there's one where I wish I knew who had made it. So basically what it was a shape block, and it would look like this, and in the side you'd have different shapes you could choose, and then these sliders would control how they looked, and it would basically, like, you ever see like a section of a site would have like a shaped border on the bottom, like clouds, or yeah, the client or the customer could actually, the user rather, could actually just control that, and they could have a unique one on every page if they wanted to, and they were able to control the size, the color, the way, the depth of the cut and all that.
You're talking about the transitions between blocks, so it's not like just
Yeah,
horizontal blocks, it's three different shapes transitions.
right.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah, I'm trying to think what it was. How are we doing for time? Still good? Okay. I don't want to go too far over if I'm going over. So this is a sketch block. So this is something that someone made, and they did this with 137 lines of code.
That's cool. So it's just like an HTML canvas.
Yep. This one was a recipe card block. So you insert a recipe, and then it gives you a template, and you can write your ingredients. Yeah, so that's one. What else? Oh, here's the Jetpack form block.
It's called the shape divider block.
Shape divider block. Was it on here, this list?
yeah,
Bottom? Oh, yeah, there we go.
I must have that.
Yeah, this is really, really neat. So they have like layouts that they can, like sections with different chunks of content. Are they not going to show it in the video? They're not going to show it. Blocks, PostGrid. Oh, so here's an image of it. So they have a way where you can actually control the shape at the top of the page. So you can see here they have like a slant. This one has like an influx in the middle, and they have it on half-size blocks as well. But then it's all controlled. You can control it all right here. So that one was cool. What else do we got here? Oh, so this one's just like the marquee tool, kind of, where it's like, it looks like someone's typing it. This one is a 360 image block. So you can actually insert 360-degree images if you want to do some VR type stuff. And users can click and drag it. Let's see. But yeah. Anyone else have any questions? I know we covered a lot. I threw a lot. You're all going to go home tomorrow and you're going to be banging away at the new editor. And yeah.
Like filter block content saying so you can manipulate short codes and things.
Yeah. So you still have the post content filter available to you. It's a little different. You have to be careful because if you break the comments, like if you forget a closing HTML comment, the editor might not know how to work with that. But there are filters, there's actions and things you can interact with it. There's JavaScript hooks when actions happen that you can interact with them that way. Yeah, it's definitely. And if you find something that you can't do, then definitely make an issue for it and say, hey, I'm trying to do this, and it might just be something that someone hasn't thought of yet.
Blocks in posts, but versus pages would be a scenario where you would use one. It seems like you could use posts for almost everything anyway, instead of pages. Or
Yeah, so that's a good point. That's a good question. Yeah, so basically, the content types are all becoming one pretty much. Like they all can do the same things, but you can limit the blocks, like what post types certain blocks can be used on in the templates. So you would have certain templates for a certain post type. To me, the most powerful aspect of custom post types is just you're organizing your content. You don't want to have your employee profiles in with your blog posts and things like that. So for me, it's still useful to have those and have those distinctions. You could add extra fields to them. You can still do all those things that you would do now. But from an editing standpoint, it's also good because a lot of times people will say, hey, I can do this on a page. Why can't I do this over here? So it helps with that and kind of increase that cohesiveness across the site and not just like within a post type. Yeah.
We'll be hanging out. We'll just call time for now just for people to have to take off. So,
Yeah.
John.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.